So the first part of these 6 essential components of the profitable digital marketing strategy is your website. Now your website is more than just a static place on the internet where people go to have a look at your website, you know, at your product, at your services and all that kind of stuff. Your website is so much more if you treat it in the right way, okay? So what I mean by that is there are a number of things that you can be doing with your website as opposed to just, you know, having a few images and that's it, and maybe a about page where you tell people you've been around since 1970 or 1980 or whatever it is, right? What your website should be, and the way you need to think about it, is your website is like a automated digital sales machine, right? It's a bit of a mouthful, but the reason I say that is because if you approach it in the way that I'm coming from, then there are a number of elements that you can invest in your website in different parts, okay? Not just in terms of cost and making it look good and all this sort of stuff, but actual points. So these are the like points that you should make sure that are on your website, okay? So the first point is, the way you want to think about your website is when someone comes on your website, they understand what you do, how you do it, and all the specs and all the different offerings that you have, like the specs of your services and your products, and then that way you are reaching out and aligning to their values, and then a call to action, okay? So the first point I mentioned to you was, what do you do, and then who are you, okay? The reason why it's so important that you are able to explain on your website what you do is so that people are then able to then, you know, literally know what you do, because there's some websites out there that talk about things in a really complicated language, or they make it so difficult because they're trying to appear, you know, like they feel like they're up in their game, but if anything they're creating more confusion. And it's okay to want to look good and all that kind of stuff, yeah, totally get that. You're putting up a professional front, making sure your website looks appear, but when it comes to your text and your wording on your website, it's so vital that people can understand you in a matter of seconds, right? So that comes down to people have to understand what you actually do. And even if you have to break that up into a number of paragraphs or sections or whatever, so be it. So the first thing is people must know what you actually do, okay? And then the second thing is who you are. So make sure on your website it clearly states like who you are. So like how long you've been around for, what kind of things, any awards that you've won, any accreditations that you've got, the kind of experience that your team's got or that you've got. This is so that's to further solidify of what we talked about just a moment ago, which was about what you actually do, and who you are should be based on obviously what you do. And then this part about what you do is sort of giving people the lowdown on why they should choose you, or why you are a strong candidate for them to think about when it comes to what, you know, their solution, when it comes time to them to obviously choose someone who they want to go with when it comes to that sort of thing. So that's why it's important. So then the next thing that's really important is have technical specs without being too elaborate with it, but just going into the most important information that people need to understand about your services and about your product. Now what that means is it's simply make sure that you present your services and products in a way that people who would be buying or investing in your services and products, minimal criteria that they would be looking for, that just make sure that you have that kind of data available in a really clear and presentable manner that, you know, that's visually appealing, people understand it, and it's, you know, you've put a bit of thought into it. Because I'll tell you what, if you can do that, then people, obviously just them 3 points alone, what you do, who you are, and the specs of your services and products, you have gone a long way already by just investing in them 3 points alone. Now, we've all been on websites where it's just not clear on what people do or who they are, you know, or the who they are section outweighs what they do and their services and products. And people don't want to just know about who you are. You know, people want to know what you actually do. And it's all like a story, right? So if you have a brand story on your website that you talk about, you know, what you do and who you are, and it all fits into the brand story, then you are miles ahead of your competitors at this point, okay? Now, the last thing that you need on your website is a clear call to action. Either have clear call to actions at the end of each of your sections, or have a main call to action as well at the top of your website in a really easy to see, intuitive position on your website. So at the top right hand corner, for example, works really well. Now, the call to action can be asking people to call you, to email you, to book online, to buy online. You know, it can be whatever it is, but if you can get your audience or your traffic on your website to take some form of a call to action, then it almost, in a way, it marks their session. So the user session that they've had on your website, you've given them an action to take, and that kind of seals the deal for that session. So it makes them feel like they've gone on a website to look up something, and they feel like they've completed a task because they've taken a call to action, or they've completed some form of a call to action, okay? And that is a massive thing when it comes to your website. And even if you have your website just laid out with them 4 points that we've talked about, what you do, who you are, specs on your services and products that are visually appealing, and a call to action, then you can rest assured that when people come on your website is doing the selling and the talking for you in the right way, and you're giving them some way of taking an action or contacting you or doing something, and that is going to help them to get into your pipeline or get in touch with you and into your database, okay? So it all depends on what your services and products are and what your call to action is.